Good morning and welcome back to Plannercraft. I'm Natalie and today we're going to be using the CM, so Carol can have a chair. It's actually up and it's on there. So I've been promising this for a while. So today I thought it would be really good to go back to basics and work with a sketch. So this is one that I've just printed off from Pinterest.
Good morning and Deb this morning.
Oh, morning Mum. Hi Deb. So we've got a little bit of drawing to do our dots. We've got a little bit of scanning to do our background scan to work out where our dots are after we've drawn them. We've got a bit of matting and layering to do. So if you notice, our dots actually go to the edge of our card, which is around here. And then we've got this layer that stops in the middle. So I'm going to show you how we can do that. And we'll go from there. So any more hellos to do before I get stuck in? You don't know? Okay.
Let's have a look. Carol says morning, all morning, Cindy.
Okay, so for those of you that are new, the CM gets called Cindy. Although I was thinking this morning, perhaps we should have called it Cookie Monster. Being CM. Okay, so we have two blades for our CM. We have the standard blade, which is the blue, and the deep cut, which is the purple. Now the purple you're not going to use very often, unless you're really into cutting your grey board. So I'm going to set that to one side. And for most of today, we're going to be focusing on our standard blade. Bless you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to start off with an A4 piece of paper.
I'm asking if your hands poorly today.
Yeah, I hurt my wrist, didn't I? So, it's been giving me a little bit of pain, just a little, throughout yesterday. So I thought this morning, right, well, I'm going to start off good. Now I'm going to put my bandage on it. So I'm using an Artist Sticks mat. And I can see it needs a little bit of a clean. So I'm just going to grab my lint roller. Just go lightly over the top and just pick up all the bits of fluff and dust and other things that gravitate towards it.
Thank you, Deb.
You're getting a bless you.
Mm-hmm.
My poor lint roller is doing what it's good at. We got a dodgy batch, didn't we? I still say the best one's coming from IKEA. Okay, so I'm going to line this up at my top left corner. Place that down. And let's turn on the machine. So do you want to go to the little camera? I'm going to turn it on. Okay, so when you turn it on, it comes up with this screen. Make sure that there is no blade in your carriage, because otherwise you can actually chip your blade.
Tracy says hi.
Hi Tracy.
Tracy's on YouTube, buddy.
We'll go okay, and it's going to do a little judder. So there is a risk if you have your blade in at that point, it can chip it on the metal bar underneath, which isn't good.
And Linda says morning. Sorry, she's late.
Oh, morning Linda, you don't have to apologise for being late. So, I'm going to load my mat. There we go. Now, our first pattern is to do our dotted circle. So, I had to think about a way that I could do this a bit easier than normal without having to use canvas. So I'm going to try something out and see if it will work. It's got two chances. So I'm going to go into basic shapes. And I'm going to go down to my circle, which is on the third page. Now, size wise, if I think about my sketch. This is a 6x8, or at least it will be by the time I finish with it. So our circle takes up most of that 8 inches, so it's about 7.5. And this is why I'm working landscape. So we're actually going to end up cutting into this. So let's go up to that 7.5. Okay. And I'm going to try and use my little seam allowance button. So that's the closest as the CM700 and the others below it get to having an offset function at this point. Okay. So if you want to do an offset with the ScanNCut CM models, it can be a bit of a faff because you end up having to go through the scan to be able to do it. Okay, so I'm going to go set, and that to me looks like it's just going to draw a straight line, whereas what I actually want is it to be dotted. So let's see if we can change that. What do you think? Let's see if additional line will do it. No. Okay. See, I knew that there was going to be something they were going to struggle with. So let's change that. I'm going to go to edit. And let's take that one off. Pop up.
Sorry.
What were you going to say?
If there was anything in edit, but obviously there isn't. So, right.
It's a bit blurry today.
It's alright.
It's not blurry on the camera.
Focusing on the wrong bit is the issue.
What was it focusing on?
The top button.
Oh yeah, okay. Let's see if I can get it over here a bit. Come on, focus.
Just carry on, it'll get
Yeah,
back
it'll
in.
sort itself out eventually. So what I might do is actually, let's try this out. Let's have a bit of a practice. So I'm going to get a pencil. Just a normal pencil, it doesn't have to be a technical one. I'm just going to load that into my holder. So I'm using the 3D thumbprints for this first bit, just because my pencil has a hexagonal barrel, so therefore it's going to be happier in that than in the brother one. And 2 lines to the back, pop it in, give it a wiggle, there we go. I'm going to go OK, now I'm just going to go for draw, and let's see how it goes. Okay, so there's our circle. Now what we want to do is do dots on that, so we have a couple of options. We can use one of the drawing templates by Pretty Gets Gritty and do it manually, or we can do it in here. So I'm going to go OK. Now this is where it's going to get fun, because we're working with a tiny screen. So I'm going to go back home to reset. I'm going to go into pattern, into my circle, and I'm going to set this as low as it will go. Oh, nearly as low as it will go. 1/4 inch, maybe a bit lower than that. And I'm going to set quite a few. And it's going to do a little row up here. I'm going to do a background scan and hope that my pencil mark shows. let's go dark. There we go. And we can just about see. That's a little bit pale, but we can just about see it. So what we want to do is have these dots in an arc. That's where the fun starts. So I'm going to start with the ones over here because they're definitely in the wrong place. And we can bring those down here. So I'm going to multi-select. Click off so nothing is selected. Use my window select. And I'm going to take it so it's got half of those dots selected. Go OK. And move those down there. I'm going to try and get them level with that top set. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay.
This is back now. She had to make cupcakes.
Cupcakes?
Cuppa.
Oh.
Change cuppa to cupcake.
I was going to say, I'd have a cupcake. So, now I'm going to go and select all. So, with those all selected, I'm going to go into a line. And what this does is we can use it to align, but we can also use it to distribute. So distribute space in terms of it being equal between each dot. Now, if it's really good, it will do it so you get a kind of pointy bit. Chances of that happening are quite slim, but at least try it before you end up having to position everything manually, because it can take you a lot of time. And as you can see, on this one, it's kind of worked, but the bottom half haven't quite. So I'm going to go OK. OK again. Back to our multi-select and click off so nothing's selected. Now let's see if we select just that bottom section. It's not going to flip it round the other way. That's not good, is it? In which case, actually, if we group it instead, so that's the red line round, then go into it, then we can do it. Like so. So you can see we're starting to get our arch heading in the right direction. And we haven't had to use too much clicking and dragging yet. However, it doesn't stay that way for long. So I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to move them over so they are roughly lined up with the edge of our circle. So group them all for now and move them over.
Tricia, she looked your block piece on the silhouette. Great job.
Thank you. Yes, but for those of you that missed the announcement yesterday, there's a blog piece for the silhouette that you can go and have a look at. The first one is about editing files in Silhouette Studio. The next one is going to be getting messy, isn't it? Well, hopefully not getting messy. Trying to avoid getting messy because it's resin. So now I'm just going to use this click and drag to just take this around the circle. So if you think like a ray going outwards from the centre point of your circle, you want to try and get those as level as possible. If there's any particular that you want to reposition, you can always go back after and use your nudge arrows and scroll down. And if you were doing this on the DX, what you could do instead of doing all this is use the paper and piercing function. Do that way.
And Drizzy isn't that messy, mean spun more.
It was very fun, wasn't it?
Mm.
We're going to have another go soon, because we have resin that needs using up, don't we? So we can't let it just sit there. So maybe do a bit on stream, maybe.
Mm.
We're a bit nervous about doing it on stream, aren't we? Because you have to really, really concentrate on what you're doing. You can't talk at the same time. So it would just be silence. So go okay. And we've kind of got our circle going on. Ta-da! Without too much of a faff. So hopefully you managed to keep up with that. If not, this video is available until YouTube or Facebook, whichever you're watching on, kicks it off. I'm going to go okay. Now remember, when we put elements onto our mat using our CM, they are cut and draw. So remember to make sure that you want to draw these ones, not cut them. I'm just looking at that zoomed out, and I think that top dot just needs to move slightly. Just there. It's not quite in the right place. There we go.
There's one about halfway down as well, which is slightly off.
What, that one there?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think?
There we go. Trouble is, you start to get a bit pedantic about it, don't you? Because it's like, no, that one's not quite right. No.
And Carol's just swapped over to YouTube as well. This is morning stress.
Yeah, so which do you all prefer, Facebook or YouTube? I know YouTube is easier to read comments than Facebook is, but... Okay, so let's get the dust out of the way. And we're going to swap our pen. And shall I use a mini pen for a change? We don't use them very often, do we?
No, you don't.
Okay, so do you want to hop back to the big camera?
Big camera. Yeah.
Okay, so this is your mini pen holder. Has a little button at the back. Press in and it releases. Take cap off pen. Drop in. Close cap. Now, if you're going to be doing multiples of drawing with sessions in between of cutting, you can pop your cap on that end. If, however, like me, you're terrible for losing caps, you can stick it on the top.
Tracy says she prefers YouTube. Nobody else is.
Okay, here we go.
Carol is trying YouTube. She cannot see many comments on Facebook.
I think it's just quiet today. So, next, you need to decide if you want to have your circles solid or if you want to have them open. Now, I think because I'm using the mini pen, I'm going to fill them in. I'm going to go to Edit, Group, Edit, and turn on the fill. So that's that little square with a pen sticking in it. Okay, I'm going to go OK, OK, OK again, and draw.
And this is blind eye that tends to watch repeats on YouTube but live streams on Facebook.
I just realised that this is drawing a different fill pattern to what I thought it was. I can do that again. Show you how to change the draw pattern. Okay. So we'll go to settings.
Hang on. You're going
Sorry?
to okay.
And I'm going to go down to fill. You can see I've got it on grid because I haven't used it that long. I didn't remember what it was I did last. And I'm also going to just take that down. Go OK. OK. And we can type to go again. I'm sorry to hear that, Carol.
Let's go back to overhead.
Yeah. Okay. So there's our card with our dots on. Can you see that okay? Just. Okay, let me tilt the camera a little bit. There we go.
That's better.
So, we have nice brown dots on our card, and now we can do our cutting. So I'm going to go OK. I'm going to go home to reset. I'm going to go to pattern. And first of all, we need to do our outside cut. So I'm going to pick the rectangle. I want to rotate it 90 degrees, so it's up the correct way. I'm going to go up to 8 for my height. And we can see that our width isn't wide enough, so I'm going to press my ratio button, same as I would on my DX, and I'm going to go and take that to 6. There we go. I'm going to add that to my map. Okay, now at the moment you can still see that scan that we did before with the pencil line. Don't worry, because we're going to do another one. So. Okay, so if we go back to our sketch, do you want to go back to big camera?
You'll get on big camera.
Okay, we've got our dots that come all the way around here. So we want our 6x8 line to start right where these dots start. Then we're going to do another line inside that. So with our 6x8 there, I'm going to go back to add, go back to rectangle, rotate it and set. So I'm not going to resize it at that point. The reason I'm doing that is if I put it the size that I need it to be, it's going to complain and not put it on the mat, because it's going to see that this is going to be in the way. Whereas what we want it to do is we're going to pop it in the middle. I'm going to go to multi-select and I'm going to select both so that we've got the red line around both pieces. Go OK. I'm going to go to align and we're going to go centre and centre. So centre and centre. So I really wasn't far out there, was I? I'm going to go OK. Back to multi-select and just click back off that back rectangle. So now we can go into edit and we can resize this because it's going to go from that center point anyway. So I'm going to start off by doing the height to the point where I want to from my sketch. So if I have a look at my sketch, it's quite close to the edge. It's about, let's think if that's about 8 inches, that's probably about half an inch. So maybe a little bit bigger. Joy sketches is you don't have to do it exactly though. So do what looks good to you. Now we know that we had to use that ratio button to push out that width slightly. So I'm going to do that using our ratio button in this window. And I'm going to push that out to 5. Maybe, no, go to 4.6, that's fine there. Okay, make a note of that figure because when we come to do our colour layer we're going to want to be able to refer back to it. So that very usefully. Here's a piece of paper I stored earlier and let's grab a pen. So our height is 6.52 inches and our width is 4.60 inches. So when we come to cut our coloured piece we need to be larger than that figure. Okay, now for the good bit. I'm going to go OK and OK again. I'm going to grab my blade and what do you think, Ian? It's been a while.
What are you cutting?
Would you like a piece so you can... There you go, Mr. Auto Blade. And you need to go to work in a minute. Five. Okay. So I'm going to pop that into my machine. Go OK. If you want to change any settings at the moment, so my cut pressure is on -5, my cut speed is on 1. And let's go cut. Oh, you little... Ah! Naughty Matt. Will that work? Oh well.
Is it salvageable?
Is it salvageable? Yes, probably. So, if your machine is naughty like mine, here's how you fix it. Let's get me trimmer. And no be Matt so you can see what I'm doing. And don't remove the pattern off your machine. So because of where that layer is going to go, it might be alright. I might just stick something over it, we'll see.
You'll need that back as well.
Hmm?
You'll need that back.
Yeah, okay. Pop it on there for me. So, everybody say bye-bye, Ian. Shame, because you've done a lovely job of setting the blade there, dude.
Never mind.
Never mind.
All sent to trash.
Isn't it just?
Okay, we're going to work.
Oh. Yeah, naughty Cindy. So, let's get my guide out from my trimmer. Have you noticed? Different trimmer. It's a temporary one until Ian gets round to sorting out. And let's just check this bottom edge so that it is the 8 inches. Like so. Still getting used to it. First time using it, so it's cool. It's cool. And I'll fish out the little bits in a Bible. Let's just pop that down there for a second. So with that trimmed, we can go and pop it back on our mat. We're going to do a background scan, and we're still going to do that same central section. So, pop it on the mat. Let's just give it another clean, given it's also being a bit, yeah. Needed a foil shield obviously at some point. There we go. And I'm going to pop it in 1 inch from the edge. Now this is going to be fun because my iPad is smacking away there. So let's pop that on Ian's seat. That could be interesting. I'm not going to pop it up on its end. There we go, it can stay there. Okay, so let's drop that back down. Going to load it back in. Yeah, I know I'm being naughty and not following my own advice. Okay, so with this loaded back in, now obviously our boxes aren't in the right place. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go into Edit. I'm going to go to Select All. Okay, Group, because I want to move it as a group. I'm going to bring it over here so that it lines up roughly in the right place, and we can nudge it if need be. Okay, so we know it is 1 inch in at the top and the side. Ungroup it, go to multi-select, have that outside one selected and delete. Okay, now let's go for it again. Okay, so we know the blade setting was okay, so we can go cut and start, and this time I'll hold on to it. Okay. Oh. Come here. There we go. And we're off. They did so well to that last little bit. So let's unload that and see if we can sort this out a little bit. Let's go back to overhead. Yeah, it is a little bit, Tracy. It is playing me up. It's not as bad as it was yesterday. Yesterday it was, well, yeah. It was not good, was it, Mum? So I'm just going to put my blade down there. And just into this corner here. There we go. So it's very slightly off, but yeah. I'm not that worried about it. Okay. Let's get my trimmer and just tidy up this edge. I keep expecting it to lift up the same way as my other one does, but it's not quite the same. Now this is going to be interesting because there isn't as much to hang on to. Okay, so it's a little bit better. Not perfect, but hey ho. It's going to be one of those days today. So, the important thing to show you is what we do next. We're going to go, okay, and let's pop it back to the other camera. Now, if you've had to go home and then do something else, then obviously you're going to be referring to your notes to re-put this shape in. You okay, Ian? That's a bit odd. I'm going to go back. And if we're going to edit, so let's say you brought in a shape that is the same size, we're going to want to go upwards and outwards. So you have two options. You can put your seam allowance on, which should take it out a consistent amount, or you can do it manually. So for what I'm doing, that is probably just what I want. So I'm going to go OK, and we're going to have this item here that we can move around. So again, I'm going to pop this up into that top corner, not too close because that was why it had an issue before. And we're going to need some chocolate card. So let's go for some 12 by 12 just because it's about hand. Let's have a look at that fun match. So it's going to go, if I flick you overhead, and like that. So I think that's okay. So let's add that to my mat. And check you get the card the right way up. So with some cards you can actually cut them good side face down from knee to finish. But with most of mine I tend to put them face up, just so they stick better. Especially if you're working with things like this that are textured on an older mat like this. So your CM mat's probably a good year old that I'm working with. It's probably time to give it a bit of a good clean and a re-stick if needed. Okay. Pop that into my machine. There we go. Now, as we've got such a big piece of paper that we're working with, we can actually add a few more bits onto the mat at the same time. So one of the other bits in our sketch is another panel that goes on top, which is about 6 by about 2. So I can add that as well. So it's kind of a long thin strip like that. So you always go for the one that's closest to the ratio of the item that you're doing. And we're going to rotate it so that it's upright and long thin. We're going to resize it. so. And at the moment you can see it says it's about 3 inches, which is going to be a bit too wide. So I'm going to use my ratio and take it down. Let's say 2.5. 2.5 might do it better. So as I said, this is a sketch, so you can just work it as you want to. And that looks pretty good. So again, I'm going to set that. And I'm just going to bring that in and across a bit. So there's a bit more border between the pieces. So if you're finding that you're struggling to get your card to stick to your mat, one of the things you can do to help yourself is by bringing that across so that you're increasing that pattern interval. You can also do it in your settings too, so it will do it automatically for you. So especially if you're working with something that is quite delicate or fragile, or even things like craft foam, you're better off just increasing that pattern interval. Okay. There's also a little heart. Now when you have something like a heart in a sketch, what they're actually meaning is, doesn't mean you have to put a heart there. It's saying that it's whatever matches your theme, you're going to put an element there. So if you were doing this as a space theme, you could put a rocket there. If you're doing this as a sort of 80s theme, you could do like a little 80s icon in there. As for this one, I'm going to be going a little bit vintage, so I think I'm going to leave that one for now, and then I can actually die cut some elements that I can bring that in too. And then what I will do is I will concentrate on the next little pocket bit next. So I'm going to cut those first, go OK. Now what I'm going to say is, I'm going to take my blade down just a little, I think, which probably means that I will probably go and get it wrong, because Mr. Autoblade's not here, and it's a while since I've worked with Cindy. Just a while. So I'm going to go to cut, and just let it do all the thing. So she literally got put up last night, so it's like no time to practice. And then yesterday I was working with the silhouette, so that really throws a spanner in the works, because with the silhouette blade you can set it by numbers, even though it's an auto blade as such. Okay, let's see how that did. So I'm going to peel off the bottom corner. There you go. Who needs Mr. Waterblade? Nah, I don't mean it. Okay, so there's a coloured piece from Matt. Then our panel piece. So finally we have, if I come back overhead, finally we have this little bit here. So when we have something like this where it's got a scallop, what it's saying is cut some kind of border. So if I go back to my close cam, I'm going to go OK. I'm going to go and reset. I'm going to go into pattern and let's find a border. And you could go for a scallop if you wanted to. Let's go for this one. Now I know I don't need it that big. It's literally going to be, let's see if that's 2.5, probably about 3.5 inches max. So I'm going to take that down to 3.5. At which point it's going to get seemingly really tiny. and I'm going to rotate it so that my scallops are going in the same direction as what they are on the sketch. I'm going to go OK, and I'm going to set that onto my mat, and I'm going to move it across. I'm going to go back to add, and now I want another rectangle. Again, rotate it so it's up the right way. And this one, that was 2.5 across, so I'm going to want to be lower than 2.5. So 2.25 should be fine. And our border was 3.5. So use your ratio, and I'm going to put my height to the 3.5. And set that. So now I can take this one up to this one. I'm going to zoom in like so, and I want to do it so that we have a little bit of an aperture. The two should line up at the top. Okay, it's going to give it a little nudge. Okay, we're going to select everything, then we're going to weld it and go OK. So then what we should end up with is lots of little loops onto a card. So that means that we can then slide that in and out. And we also have our border line here. So that's going to be 8 tall by about, oh, let's go 3/4 of an inch. So, okay, and add. Thin border, rotate it. So we're going to go up to 8, and I'm just going to use that ratio button. A bit too far. I do find it's really easy to get overshoot where you're aiming with this one. That needs to go down to about 3/4 of an inch. Okay. So then we have our long strip. And again, if you have a icon or something that you want to cut from that same card, you can still add that. I'm going to go for a different shade of brown. So this one is more toffee coloured. Let's go OK and cut. Okay, then we go back overhead. There we go. No, you can't give up. It's not loud. Okay. So there's one that's snagged, but again, that's just an opportunity to add something else. what have we got so far? Running out of places to put things today. You wouldn't think I'd had a big tidy up at the weekend. So our mat is going to go over our aperture, like so. Then this layer comes over the top again, like so. So that should be, when it comes to assembling this, what I would say is try and do it from the top down. It's a bit easier that way. Then we have our border, like so. Then on our sketch, that's going to go to there. Our little border piece that needs me to do a bit of a tidy up goes underneath that, and we can turn that into a little pocket then. So we can do like a little pull tab, and just to bring back that dot bit, I'm just going to bring this back because it said this is just a sketch. And let's take that. Ooh, let's go there instead. So that way when it's out of the pocket you see a bit more of the dots. And what you can do is, when we did the dots, what you could do at that point is save it, and then if you want to redraw it onto other elements you can do. So I think I'm going to go with that like that. Then I'll have a little element here. I've got two panels that have got to come on top to go on there, and then we can just finish that off with other bits of designs. So that's not too bad, I don't think, for a morning's work, considering it's been a while. So any questions before I go, or I might just quickly, as I'm here, do those white panels so you can at least see those in. So grab my mat, pop the white card on, load that in, and that's doing me two little panels. So we know that my chocolate box is 2.5, so our white panels are going to be about 2.25 wide. So I'm going to go okay, change the camera, would be good, home, pattern, and the bottom panel is a bit like this one. There, you're going to go and be daft on me. Come on. Up you come. There you go. So 2.25. And I'm doing that on the wrong measurement because I'm just having one of those. Actually needs a cup of tea in the morning. I finally got it like just before I came live, and it's like, yeah. Not really got time to drink that. So I'm going to set that onto my mat. Okay. I'm going to click on it so it's got the red line around it. I'm going to go to edit, and number I'm going to set to 2. So that gives me another box that is exactly that same width. Hopefully. Let me get that. There we go. And again, it's going to resize from that centre. So we know that our chocolate piece is 6 inches tall. So if that's got about an inch taken up there. Oh, let's about 1.5, just over, say 1.75 off. Let's go 4 tall. So make sure you got your ratio, and we're going to go up to 4. There we go. Okay, and it can do that like that for what I've got on my mat. And pop your blade back up because we're going back to the old card, so that's back up to 5. Cut and okay. Let's take those off there. Go okay. And open that. And with our bits and pieces, let's put the next layer on. So our tall bit goes to the top. Let's move that out the way. And the short bit goes to the bottom, like so. So if you want to draw on your sentiment, you can do. Or if you want to stamp it on, that's perfectly fine too. So I look forward to showing you exactly what I do with that going forward. Tomorrow I'm going to be concentrating on the scanner with the CM. So it's going to be doing things like direct cut, ScanNCut data, so how we can start to use RCM with our dies. And I will see you all tomorrow. Hopefully you've enjoyed that, even though Natty's a little bit worse for wear today. So, right. We'll tell it off and tell it to behave. That's what you get for tidying. So, take care and see you soon. Bye.